You know it. You know it. You know it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of LM Deep Dives.
Woo!
I am so excited you're here with us today.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
I really can't wait to dive into all this cool stuff with you.
Me too.
So basically this show,
Deep dives.
Deep Dives. We're going to be taking a deep dive into a variety of fascinating topics.
Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff.
We want to spark some thought,
Definitely.
get a good conversation going,
Mhm.
and we really want to hear from you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What do you want to learn more about? What are you curious about?
What are you interested in?
Hit us up on social media.
Yeah, let us know.
Send us an email.
We're listening.
Whatever you got to do to get in touch with us.
We want to hear from you.
So for our first official deep dive,
Our first one.
we're going to be talking about
Drum roll, please.
Dragon Age, the VeilGuard.
Ooh, exciting.
Now, if you're a fan of the Dragon Age games,
Or fantasy in general.
you are going to love this one.
Oh yeah, tons of cool lore and history to unpack.
So get ready
Get set.
for a deep dive
Deep dive.
into Dragon Age, the VeilGuard.
We'll see you there.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so lately, it feels like everything's getting labeled woke.
Oh yeah.
Like it's become this go-to criticism, and it's everywhere.
Totally.
But the gaming world,
Yeah,
things are getting especially heated there,
for sure.
like with Dragon Age.
Yeah.
The VeilGuard about to launch.
Right. October 31st.
Yep, October 31st.
Can you believe it's almost here?
I know, right?
Everyone's already talking about
Oh, for sure.
The internet is buzzing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of that buzz,
Yeah.
it's around this whole woke thing.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Some fans are saying the game's too woke.
You see that everywhere.
And you know what's crazy? Even the game's creators are pushing back.
Yeah, they're not holding back.
So in this deep dive,
All right, let's get into it.
we're going to unpack this whole controversy.
Love it.
We're going to look at all sides.
From all angles.
Yep. And to help us do that,
Okay.
we've got some seriously interesting comments
Oh, yeah.
from David Gator.
Ah, okay, Gator.
He's one of the minds behind the original Dragon Age games.
One of the OGs.
Exactly.
So he's got a lot of history with this.
Right, which makes his perspective super valuable.
For sure.
But before we dive into that,
Yep.
quick reminder for everyone.
Yeah, go for it.
Gator left BioWare back in 2016.
Okay.
So he's not actually involved in making the VeilGuard.
Right, he's not hands-on anymore.
Nope. But his perspective is still fascinating.
Absolutely.
Because he's seen it all.
Oh, yeah.
He's seen how Dragon Age has evolved
Mm-hmm.
and how fans react to change.
Which, let's be honest, can be intense.
Oh, definitely.
Fandoms can get passionate.
That's an understatement.
Haha.
And Gator,
Yeah.
he did not hold back on Bluesky.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he basically called
Yeah.
anyone criticizing the new game for being woke. He called them tourists.
Wow. Okay, so
Like they're just passing through.
not real fans.
Exactly.
He's kind of throwing down the gauntlet there.
Oh, for sure.
That's a bold statement.
Like he's saying, if you're calling this game woke,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't been paying attention
To what Dragon Age is really about.
to the heart of the series.
Interesting.
And he even went on to say
Oh.
that this woke criticism,
Yeah.
this isn't new.
What do you mean?
He said he saw this same pushback
Okay.
throughout his time at BioWare.
Really?
Every time a new Dragon Age game came out,
Mm-hmm.
fans would complain.
What? That it wasn't like the last one?
Exactly.
Oh, come on.
I know, right?
It's like people get stuck in a time warp.
Like they want the same game over and over.
And they resist any change.
Exactly. And Gator gave some specific examples.
Oh, like what?
He talked about how when Neverwinter Nights came out,
Okay.
some fans wanted it to be more like Baldur's Gate 2.
Oh, interesting.
Then when Dragon Age Origins came out,
Yeah.
they wanted it to be like Neverwinter Nights.
So they were always looking backward
Yep. Stuck in the past.
and not embracing the new.
Exactly. It's this constant cycle.
That's fascinating.
Like some fans just can't let go.
Of their nostalgia.
And they resist anything that tries to push the series forward.
It's like they're afraid of change.
Maybe.
Or maybe they just want that comfortable familiarity.
I get that.
It's understandable.
But Dragon Age,
Yeah.
this series has always been about pushing boundaries,
Right. Pushing the envelope.
exploring mature themes.
That's part of its DNA.
Totally. And from what we've seen,
Yeah.
the VeilGuard,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to be doing just that.
Following in that tradition.
Exactly.
But it sounds like Gator's comments
Oh, yeah.
really stirred things up.
Totally. People had a lot to say.
The internet loves a good controversy.
And Gator gave him plenty to talk about.
So what kind of reactions did he get?
Oh, the usual mix.
Strong opinions all over the place.
Definitely some anger.
People feeling defensive, maybe?
Yeah, and others jump into Gator's defense.
That's always like that online.
But that's what's so great about social media.
What do you mean?
It gives you this raw, unfiltered look.
At what people are really thinking.
Exactly. You get to see all the different perspectives.
Which can be a good thing.
Even if it gets messy sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
And in the replies to Gator's post,
Yeah.
it got pretty messy.
So let's dive into some of those comments.
Okay, first up, we've got Bob.
All right, what did Bob have to say?
Bob did not hold back.
Oh.
He went straight for Gator.
Tell me more.
Bob basically called out Gator for dismissing longtime fans.
For labeling them as tourists just because they have criticisms?
Exactly.
Ooh, I can see why Bob is upset.
And Bob didn't just stop there.
What else did he say?
He brought up a specific example.
Ooh, okay.
He called out the game's art direction.
He didn't like it.
Yeah, he called it awful.
Wow.
Straight up.
So we're already seeing that divide.
Between the people who are excited for the new direction.
And the people who are holding on to the old.
Yeah, the people who feel like the series is betraying its roots.
It's interesting.
What is it?
This whole art direction thing.
Yeah.
Because art is subjective, right?
Oh, totally.
What one person finds awful,
Yeah.
another person might find refreshing.
I see your point.
It's all a matter of taste.
And this actually brings up a bigger issue.
Which is
this struggle the developers face.
with long-running franchises?
Like Dragon Age.
Exactly.
The struggle to balance.
What, nostalgia and innovation?
Yes.
Oh, that's a tough one.
You got to keep the old fans happy.
But also bring in new players.
And you got to keep the series fresh.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It really is.
And think about it.
Okay.
Think about your own favorite game series. How did you feel when they changed the art style?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Were you excited?
Or were you like, bring back the old look?
Did you miss the nostalgia?
It's tough.
It is tough.
And for a series like Dragon Age,
Yeah.
it's been going for over a decade.
Multiple art styles already.
It's bound to spark some debate.
People get attached to those visuals.
To how they remember the game looking.
And it's not just art style.
Right.
People get attached to gameplay mechanics too.
To specific
To
characters.
story elements.
Like they feel ownership over these things.
Like it's a part of them.
So when a new game comes along
Yeah.
and tries to shake things up,
To do something different.
it can feel like a betrayal.
Like the developers aren't respecting the legacy.
Or the fans' connection to the series.
Exactly.
So we've got fans who want things to stay the same.
Okay.
And we've got developers who are trying to push the series forward.
And that tension is at the heart of this whole woke debate.
For sure.
Because for some fans,
Yeah.
any change that feels too drastic
Can
can get labeled as woke,
like it's a way to dismiss it
as something they don't like.
as something that's going against their vision of the series.
It's a way of saying, this isn't my Dragon Age.
Exactly. But then you have comments like Zeke's.
Oh, what did Zeke say?
Zeke took things to a whole other level. He basically said that anyone criticizing the game,
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't like the new direction,
Okay.
he said they're not real gamers.
Oh, wow.
Talk about gatekeeping.
Right.
Like there's a right way
In a wrong way.
to be a fan.
Classic gatekeeping.
It's so frustrating
Really is.
because it shuts down any conversation.
It creates this us versus them mentality.
Exactly. And it forgets that fandoms,
Yeah.
they're supposed to be about shared passion,
About celebrating something you love together.
not about policing each other's opinions.
And that's what gets lost in these online debates sometimes.
It's like people forget that there are real people
With feeling.
on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, it's easy to dehumanize people online.
And that's never a good thing.
No, it just creates more division,
And less understanding.
which is the opposite of what we need.
We need more empathy,
More listening,
more open-mindedness.
more willingness to see things from different perspectives.
If we want to have any hope of moving these conversations forward.
Absolutely.
So let's try to remember that.
As we continue to explore this whole woke controversy,
And all the different perspectives.
because it's a complex issue,
With no easy answers.
but it's worth talking about,
And it's worth trying to understand.
even if we don't always agree.
So let's keep talking.
But let's do it with respect.
And an open mind.
Agreed. And it's like fandoms, they're not about being the right kind of fan.
No, not all.
It's about the love of the game.
Yeah, the shared passion.
Exactly.
But then things get even trickier
Oh, yeah.
when we look at Mash's comment.
Okay, Mash, what did they say?
Well, Mash pointed to something specific in the game.
Okay.
They pointed to the inclusion of trans surgery scars.
Interesting.
And they said that was proof.
Proof that the game IS woke.
Yeah.
Directly challenging Gator.
Totally.
Wow.
Because MASH is saying,
yeah,
look, this game I is pushing an agenda.
And they're using this visual element.
That's evidence.
The trans surgery scars.
Exactly.
And this brings up something really fascinating.
Like that.
How even something visual, like character design,
can be interpreted in totally different ways.
Right. Different people see different things.
Totally.
For some people, seeing diverse body types,
like including scars,
could be seen as a positive step.
Toward inclusivity.
Representing a wider range of people.
Right.
But for others...
Like MASH.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the game is pushing something on them.
An agenda.
That they didn't ask for.
Yeah, and this ties into a bigger conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
About representation in media.
And who gets to tell their stories.
Whose voices are being heard.
And whose voices are being silenced.
It's complex.
It is.
Because what one person sees as woke, another person might see as
simply reflecting reality.
The world is diverse.
People come in all shapes, sizes, and experiences.
And those differences should be represented.
And the media we consume in the games we play.
But it's about finding that balance between representing diversity and not feeling like an agenda is being forced.
And that's where things get tricky.
Because sometimes it feels like the word woke has lost all meaning.
It's become this weaponized term.
Thrown around without any real thought.
Or nuance.
It's like a shortcut.
To dismiss something you don't like.
Without actually engaging with it.
And that's what's so frustrating.
Because it prevents us from having these important conversations.
About representation.
About inclusivity.
About what we want to see in our games.
We need to be able to talk about these things.
Openly and honestly.
Without resorting to labels.
Or shutting down the conversation.
Exactly.
It feels like people are so quick to judge.
To label something.
Without taking the time to understand.
What it means.
Or why someone might find it problematic.
Or even if it is actually problematic.
We need to slow down.
Take a breath.
And really think about what we're saying.
And why we're saying it.
And instead of just throwing around the word woke.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be more helpful?
To articulate what we're actually objecting to.
To be specific.
To say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this element because...
I would have preferred to see this because...
Give reasons.
Explain your perspective.
And be open to hearing other perspectives.
Because that's how we learn.
That's how we grow.
And that's how we make progress.
As a community.
Okay, so we've talked about art style.
Okay.
Gameplay changes.
Representation.
But there's this other comment that I think brings up something really important.
Okay, what is it?
This is from Masked Individual.
Masked Individual, all right.
And they suggested that if the VeilGuard featured heavily sexualized female characters, it wouldn't be labeled woke.
That's a hot take.
It definitely makes you think.
It does.
About why some types of representation are celebrated.
While others are condemned.
Are we really concerned about inclusivity?
Or are there some deeper biases at play?
Are we okay with objectifying certain groups?
But not others.
And why is that?
That's a tough question.
But it's one we need to ask.
Because we've seen this double standard for years in games.
Sexy female characters?
Often seen as empowering.
While male characters rarely face the same scrutiny.
It's like there's this unspoken rule.
About who's acceptable to objectify.
And who's off limits.
And that's not right.
It's not.
We need to be more critical.
Or thoughtful.
About how we portray different genders in games.
Absolutely.
But amidst all this controversy, there's one thing I think is worth highlighting.
What's that?
The developers actually listened.
Oh, really?
To some fan feedback.
Tell me more.
They implemented a new feature.
Okay.
That lets you restart interrupted conversations.
With companions.
Yeah.
So like if you accidentally skip a line of dialogue.
Or you get interrupted.
You can go back and replay it.
Exactly.
That's a nice quality of life improvement.
And it shows that, despite all the accusations of being woke, the developers are still listening.
To their community.
To some extent, at least.
And they're trying to make the game better.
They're taking feedback into account.
It's easy to get caught up in all the online negativity.
All the anger.
And forget that there are real people.
Working on these games.
People who care.
About making a good game.
And about the fans.
And while I can't please everyone.
Right.
It's good to see.
They're at least trying.
To address some concerns.
Even if it's just a small feature.
It shows they're open to dialogue.
To some extent, at least.
Which is more than we can say.
Oh, yeah.
For some other developers out there.
Some just shut down completely.
Ignore the feedback.
Pretend it's not happening.
But the Dragon Age developers...
They're engaging.
To a degree.
And that's something...
It is.
It gives me hope.
Me too.
That maybe we can have these conversations.
About what we want from our games.
Without it devolving into chaos.
Without all the anger and name-calling.
Maybe we can find some common ground.
I hope so.
So as we try to make sense of this whole woke mess...
It's important to remember...
Yeah.
That there are valid criticisms.
On all sides.
From the people who want the series to stay the same.
To the people who are excited for change.
We need to respect those different perspectives.
Even if we don't agree with them.
And we need to avoid reducing complex issues to simplistic labels.
Like woke.
Because those labels don't help anyone.
They just shut down the conversation.
And prevent us from having a real dialogue.
We need to be more nuanced.
More thoughtful.
More willing to engage with the complexity.
Issues. We need to be critical thinkers.
Discerning about the information we consume.
Willing to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Because that's how we grow.
Right.
So instead of reacting emotionally.
To buzzwords.
Yeah, like...
Yes. We need to ask ourselves, what are the specific concerns here?
Yeah. What are people actually objecting to?
And why?
Are these concerns valid?
And how do they relate to the game as a whole?
We need to look at the bigger picture.
It's like we need to be detectives.
Ooh, I like that.
Media detectives.
Carefully analyzing the evidence.
Forming our own conclusions.
Because ultimately, it's up to each player
to decide
what they find compelling
or problematic
in a game.
There's no right or wrong answer.
It's about personal taste.
And personal values.
And that's okay.
And to be fair, Dragon Age, the VeilGuard might not appeal to every single player.
Not every game is for everyone.
That's all right.
And that's perfectly fine.
Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. That we approach these conversations
with respect.
With open minds.
And a willingness to understand.
Different perspectives.
Even if we don't agree with them.
Because that's how we create a more inclusive
and welcoming
gaming community.
But even if Dragon Age, the VeilGuard, isn't your thing.
Right.
Like, even if you're not going to play it.
Yeah.
This whole woke controversy, it brings up some big questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
About where games are headed.
Yeah, totally. Like, what do we want from games?
And what do different fans expect?
Because different players want different things.
Right. Like, what are our priorities?
And how much change are we comfortable with?
Because change is inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a long-running series.
Things have to evolve.
Or they'll get stale.
Exactly.
And this woke debate?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a mirror.
Okay.
Reflecting back at us.
Reflecting what?
Our own anxieties about change.
About how society is changing.
Exactly.
And what those changes mean for the things we love.
The things we grew up with.
The favorite games, our favorite movies.
Everything's evolving.
And sometimes that's scary.
It is scary.
Because it makes us question
our own values. Like, what are we comfortable with seeing?
Yeah. What makes us uncomfortable?
And why?
Those are tough questions.
They are.
But they're worth asking.
Even if you're not a hardcore Dragon Age fan.
Right.
These questions are relevant.
To all of us.
To anyone who cares about the future of games.
To anyone who wants to see games reflect the diversity of the real world.
But in a way that feels authentic.
And not forced.
And not like an agenda.
Right.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to hear from you.
Yeah. What do you think?
What are your thoughts on this whole woke thing?
Is it a legitimate criticism?
Or is it just a way to dismiss things you don't like?
How should games handle representation?
Inclusivity.
These are big questions.
We need your help to answer them.
So hit us up in the comments.
Let's have a conversation.
A respectful one.
Because at the end of the day, these conversations matter.
They do.
They help us understand each other better.
But maybe, just maybe, they can help make the gaming world
a little more welcoming.
For everyone.
That's what we're all hoping for.
Right.
A more inclusive
and more understanding
gaming community.
Really. So let's keep talking.
And let's keep listening.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.